What up, Freediver fans? Jonathan and Eric here with you today, and we are going to go through our favorite Polespear slip tips.
We got them all here. Line them up.
Okay, so I want to tell you guys about the general concept and idea of the slip tip, how it works versus a flopper or paralyzer tip.
When you would want to use that versus something else as well.
Absolutely. We'll probably have to do that on a different video on comparing the two.
Whatever.
But so the general idea of a slip tip is when you shoot your fish, right? So using the JBL one as an example, when you shoot your fish, this guy is actually supposed to leave the Polespear, right? And it's connected by a string, a piece of cable, or any means necessary. And then it toggles, right? It turns sideways on the fish. So this is the ability to retain the fish with this tip leaving the actual whole assembly. So that's the concept of what a slip tip is and how it works. And then they all kind of work a little bit differently, but that's the general idea. Any thoughts?
Yeah, so the concept there being by removing the tip from the Polespear itself, takes a lot of stress off the Polespear. It holds in the fish a little bit better. You have increasing your chances of landing that fish and decreasing your chances of breaking your gear.
Yeah.
The Riffe Sub Mini Polespear slip tip. This is an awesome little slip tip setup. Really streamlined, nice low profile tip on there. These guys work really, really good. They have a good toggle system, comes off really easily. Now, this guy fits really well with the Riffe Polespear. It already has the 6mm male threaded end on it. Most Polespears are a male thread on the pole itself. The Riffe Polespear is a female thread, so this works perfectly with that. And the way this guy works, you're gonna shoot your fish. We have our fish here. It's probably a world record mutton snapper. That's gonna go through the fish, and this hole's a little big. Toggle on the other side, just like that. With the Riffe, you have this little slide ring that's going to move up and down on the shaft, take a lot of that stress off your Polespear, which is good. Getting your tip back, there's no easy way to remove this system from the Polespear, so you're actually just going to pull this back through the opposite direction in the fish. Tip first, that's going to come off. To reset it, going to put the tip back on. There's a little rubber down at the bottom. You're actually going to pull this white string, and that's going to hold everything tight. This little piece of rubber keeps the friction on it, and that's how the Riffe Sub Mini is set up.
The Sea Stinger number 3 slip tip is one of my favorites that I've shot quite a few fish on. I actually really enjoy this slip tip. It actually has the ability to detach the tip entirely away from the assembly, which is good and bad. It definitely has its ups and downs. But going through this guy, after you shoot your fish, punches through. This blue collar right here is actually what the tip uses to catch the fish, and then it turns completely sideways so that you can have a nice big area of not letting your fish tear through the slip tip. You got to be careful with cable, right? Especially thin cable, as if you let the fish just kind of sit on the slip tip, if he starts going crazy, he's definitely going to saw through his own body, right? So you got to make sure that you get that fish to your person pretty quickly.
Brutal.
Getting the slip tip off once you've had you landed your fish, there's a little groove inside of the collar here itself, and what you're going to do is you're going to line the ball of the cable up with that groove. So you're going to spin this guy right to there, and then it simply pulls right out and completely disconnects. Very, very simple. And then all you do is grab the tip itself and pull the cable through the fish. So really easy, but when you're reassembling this guy, you want to make sure that that groove is still lined up with the hole that's on top here. And you simply push that cable back through that hole. And extremely important, you got to make sure that you twist that groove away from the hole. If you don't, you're just gonna be poking holes in fish, right? So after you get that squared away,
Once.
After you get that squared away, you pull this guy down, and that locks that back in. You notice the little bit of a kink right here in the cable, and that's what's actually helping you hold this tip on as you hold it upside down to let it not fall off before you shoot your fish.
The JBL Polespear Slip Tip is probably one of the most simple setups we have in the shop. Really easy to use. There's no fancy mechanisms on it at the bottom or anything like that. There's no real way to detach the tip to pull the string through the fish. But how this guy works is you're going to shoot the fish, goes through there, it's going to toggle like so, and now you have that fish resting on the piece of spectra, or length of spectra. What's nice about the spectra, it doesn't saw through the fish as easily as cable can. It's also a lot more flexible, so that fish has a lot more room for movement. It does tend to get twisted up a little bit more, maybe a little more tangles, but on a short piece like this, it's not going to be a huge deal. Now, one thing cool with the JBL tip is that to get it back through, there's actually a little metal collar on the end of the tip here. You're going to want to slide that over the end, and that's going to lock the tip in point first when you're pulling it back through the fish. So now you can just pull that straight through and you're good to go. To reset the JBL, you're going to put the tip back on the end, and all you need to do is pull that spectra line on the bottom. There's a little piece of rubber here that's going to help keep some friction on there, and that's all there is to it. Neritic Slip Tip is a really cool setup. It's actually one of the only magnetic slip tips out on the market right now. I believe there's one other, but it's not as streamlined as this setup is, which is really nice. A couple cool features about this tip. Number one, there's no fancy mechanisms or anything that you need to do to keep the tip on. Obviously that magnet is what's going to keep it on there. So the way this guy is going to work, we got a little bit of a long piece
length
of work
here,
you shoot your fish, that tip is going to toggle. It's not enough magnetic force to keep that on there and pull it back through. You get a nice toggle on there. Now with how they come from the factory, they do have a pigtail swivel, but it's really easy to just pop these guys off. You can also set it up with a loop-to-loop system, which we'll show you in a second as well. So now that slip tip is completely detached, and just like that, you can pull the whole thing back through. And setting it back up is just as easy as putting it back on the pigtail swivel and popping the tip on the end. Just like that. The magnet holds it on there, you're ready to shoot another fish. All right, so the other way you can set up the Neritic tip system, instead of going through the pigtail that it comes with, you can actually take the end of your cable with the loop on it. You're going to run that through the loop on the Polespear, over the end, and make sure I'm keeping that in frame. That's going to slide down the shank, and now your tip can just go straight on the end. Now when you shoot something, those two loops interlock. There's no way that can come off. Makes it a lot easier to remove in the future. It's super simple to just pull everything straight through and you're all set.
The Headhunter Predator Polespear and Slip Tip is probably one of our best-selling tip systems in the store, actually by far, right? And the reason why I think it works so well and people like it so much is its ability to completely detach. There were some others that are very similar to that, but this guy is a nice, sleek design, very easy to use. So let's get right into it. So after you have shot your fish, goes all the way through and toggles, right? You have this loop and loop system. And so as your fish starts to run, Eric, you wanna run away with that fish? It catches the cable and cable. And so that creates that stopping point right there. And so you notice the red rubber band got stretched, but it's not the rubber band that's actually holding your tip onto your Polespear. All of that rubber band is doing is keeping this guy on there when it's reset. So you can see rubber band's not doing much besides letting that cable and cable hold on to itself. So after we've subdued our fish into our hands, we can then take our slip tip, right, and try to remove this guy. All we're gonna do is lift this guy up over the shank, down through that loop, and then we're gonna come down through this O-ring, and that's gonna be completely disconnected. You're gonna wanna make sure that you have your fish in your hand, right, before you do this, otherwise he's gonna swim away with your tip. And then you're free and clear, right? The fish is in the boat, hopefully, and you're ready to re-rig your slip tip. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grab that O-ring, grab the back end of our slip tip, push that through our O-ring.
The bottom to top technique.
That's right, starting at the bottom, going up through that cable loop, over the shank, and then we take our tip and put it back on top of our shank.
So what you're telling me is we started at the bottom, now we're here?
Yes, yes. All right, so a lot of people definitely confuse this and assemble it incorrectly, right? So if you come through and you just put it over your shank and then here, that's not gonna work, right? Because when you shoot your fish, it's gonna come right off and it's gonna only use that rubber band to secure it.
And it's gonna break.
That's gonna break and you're gonna lose your tip and your fish. So let me show it to you one more time. We come up through that O-ring. We're gonna come up through that cable loop and we're gonna go over that shank. Then put that tip right back on there and we're ready to go. The reason for this rubber band is simply so that when you're upside down, your tip doesn't come off. In placement of this rubber band, if you're getting a new pole spear or rigging this tip system on a different pole, a lot of people that I've seen, they'll take this rubber band and stretch it all the way down here, right? And the problem with that is that makes this so tight on that pole spear that the disengagement of that slip tip is not really the greatest. But at the same token, you also don't want this so loose that when you turn upside down, it falls right off, right? So there's a good happy medium in trying to figure out the tension of how this system works. And hopefully this video helps you guys. This is the Headhunter Predator Slip Tip. Guys, thanks so much for watching. We have a ton of information that we posted in this video, so we're super excited to get this out to you guys. Also, with each of the slip tips that we used today, you can get the little parts and pieces for them. So if you need a new tip, or if you want some more cable, or if you're gonna switch from cable to Dyneema, we can talk about that in a later video.
Sure.
But definitely, all kinds of stuff that you can pick up and purchase from us on our website at floridafreedivers.com. If you guys has any questions on how this works, or if you see something in the video that just doesn't really make sense to you, please leave a comment below or shoot us an email or call us.
And always make sure you have an extra tip when you're going out. If you're going to the Bahamas for a week, you're probably gonna lose a tip at some point. Last time I went to the Bahamas, first fish I shot, lost the tip on it on the first day of a week-long trip. Luckily, I had plenty
Backups,
more.
Yeah.
So always make sure you're grabbing a couple extra pieces. That's going to be a big help.
It's going to save the trip.
It can save the trip for sure. So let us know down in the comments below which slip tip style, that was tough to get out, a little alliteration, you prefer to use, whether it's the Headhunter, the Neritic, the JBL, the Riffe, the Sea Stinger, or something else. What do you prefer? What works best for you? What have you shot your biggest fish on? Let us know down below. Like, favorite, share, comment,
subscribe,
everything.
all those things. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks for watching our video, guys. Be sure to leave a comment on our channel. Let us know what you want to see next. In the meantime, you can check out all of our other awesome videos that we've already put up if you want to learn more about freediving and spearfishing, particularly this one over here. It's one of my favorite videos. It's pretty awesome. You should definitely check that one out. And we will see you in the next one.